Hello, welcome to our YouTube 8VK channel. Please stay tuned and get the latest news and updates around the world.
The decision of the Home Ministry to revoke the Free Movement Regime, FMR, between India and Myanmar and fence the 1,640 kilometers boundary that most of the rest of India knows little about is based on false premises and a misrepresentation of reality. It is also contrary to the central government's stated principles, policy, and rhetoric of Neighbourhood First and Act East to foster closer trade, connectivity, and people-to-people ties with Myanmar and Southeast Asia. They mark a remarkable reversal of our border movement regime with Burma, Myanmar that has been in existence since colonial times, amounting to a virtual sealing of our neglected 1,600 kilometers border with a civilizational neighbor. The FMR evolved in recognition of the artificial and arbitrary nature of colonial boundaries and the close traditional, customary, and kinship ties of cross-border tribal communities through the ages. Although it was Britain that drew the boundaries between India and then Burma after the Treaty of Yandabo in 1826, they understood that any attempt to restrict cross-border ties and movement between divided ethnicities would invite trouble. This was also recognized by independent Burma in the revision of their passport rules in 1948 and by India in 1950. It survived the exodus of people of Indian origin and Burmese dissidents after General Ne Win's military coup of 1962, as well as the suppression of other pro-democracy movements since then. Despite several challenges, there were few complaints about its misuse or demand for its reversal or revocation until now. Ironically, the FMR that had been in operation by both sides more or less unilaterally since then in variations and degrees, was harmonized and formalized by the present government in January 2018 in its current form to take into account security concerns, reciprocity, and the overall evolution of our relations with Myanmar through the northeastern region of India. A press release issued by the PIB explains the agreement as intended to regulate and harmonize the existing free movement rights for people ordinarily residing in the border areas of both countries and enable movement of people to boost the economy of the northeast and leverage our geographical contiguity with Myanmar to boost trade and people-to-people ties. Seeing the potential of the 16 kilometers FMR to promote Manipur as India's gateway to Southeast Asia, it was also being informally stretched by state authorities and businesses. That policy is now being upturned without any serious debate under pressure from the same government of Manipur even as it tries to wrest control of the border trading town of Mora from the Kukizo after the reciprocal ethnic cleansing of May 2023 by force. If the lifting of the FMR is historically and politically illogical, the fencing of the border is even more questionable. Although there are several conceivable reasons why border fencing could be resorted to, many of these are misconceived and will not be addressed by fencing. Rather, border fencing across 1,600 kilometers of mountainous and forested terrain prone to landslides will require heavy investments in men and machinery to construct and maintain. It will incur huge costs in erecting, patrolling, monitoring, and surveillance besides unquantifiable environmental costs in ecologically sensitive ranges. Even if only partially implemented in Manipur where the demand is coming from, it will be seen as a ploy to land the central government into conflict with the Kukizo-Tiawan Bialis over land acquisition and aggravate an already explosive situation. Substantively, while the conflict in Myanmar is serious, its impact on India is minimal. Illegal and informal trade has grown, but the real reasons for that lie in the lack of trade, customs, and enforcement infrastructure on the border. The IIG problem has been around for over 60 years, yet, although there were demands to erect fencing in some sections, these had more to do with turf battles and competing models of border management between the Assam Rifles and Border Security Force, BSF, and central preferences than as solutions to the problem. The reality is that the decision to lift the FMR and fence the India-Myanmar border is a byproduct of the current conflict in Manipur between the state government and the majority Meitei community on the one hand and the Kuki-Zohmazomis who inhabit the peripheral hills to the south, east, and north on the other. They are driven entirely by the Manipur government's narrative about illegal migration and external aggression by Kukichin from Myanmar and by radicalized Manipuri Meiteis as part of their national war against the Kuki-Zohmazomi who they project as foreigners and narco-terrorists. It would appear that the center either believes or has fallen hostage to this narrative of the Manipur government at the expense of the other states and affected Tiawan Bialis in Manipur and elsewhere. It will reinforce the growing impression among the Kukizo of Manipur that the center is tacitly backing the state government's ethnic agenda. In the end, the kinship and tribal ties are such that they will not be curbed by the measures. Rather, the same kinship that binds them to their fellow Tiawan Bialis in India could be turned against us. Given their cross-border distribution, it has the capacity to spill over both internal and international borders due to miscalculations of the Indian state and/or ethnic and tribal resistance groups. On the other hand, as they gain territory against the military junta, they will become our de facto neighbors. It is in our interest to develop ties with them. Ultimately, it will hurt the ruling party and the government politically. If pursued, it will result in a self-inflicted wound against our national interests. The center cannot be unaware of or indifferent to this. It is hoped better sense prevails.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, and also do share your feedback in comment section below.